Rich Arriaga. Chapter 10 is what we're covering today. This is from John Maxwell's 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. And so as a reminder, I use the acronym SOAP, S-O-A-P. S stands for either study, section, statement, or something that somebody said if you're listening to a podcast or a lecture. But the S for today is the section, and the section is Chapter 10. The observation is for you to share between 1 and 3 observations that you're making directly or indirectly from the material. Directly means that I read this paragraph, I read this line, I read this word, and this is the takeaway. This is how it spoke to me. You can't have a wrong answer. Or you can be, it might be something where it's indirect, where even though I read this material, this chapter, it reminded me of something else. Or if it's you're listening to other people in the room sharing their observations, that might trigger an intuition. You may get information outside of you, whether you call it God or spirit or the universe or the quantum field, doesn't matter what you call it, but you may get some type of intuition that reminds you of something, and I would encourage you to share that because those are usually interesting, and I think those are really significant. The A is for application, so ask yourself, how can I use this, apply it within the next 24 to 48 hours? And so this is the purpose of the application is you're trying to convert short-term memory into a long-term memorization. So you apply it. So you're in assimilating this into you. And then P, pass it forward. Your circumstances may not be ideal. You may not be happy with where you are, but we will all acknowledge that you can be in much worse conditions. The fact that you're listening to this material says that you have access to something that most others may not. And so I look at it as it's somewhat of an obligation, certainly for me, to share the information, to pass it forward. And so I would ask you to consider doing the same. Is there someone that you know of who would benefit from this lesson? You don't have to share the video with them, but you can certainly share your thoughts, your learnings in a conversation with them. So it's just a great way of you helping develop other people. So this is the law of the rubber band. And so it says that growth stops when you lose the tension between where you are and where you could be. So if you think of a rubber band in its normal resting state, there's not a whole lot of tension there. There's no tension at all, to be honest. And so in order for that rubber band to grow, to expand, it has to be stretched, and therefore it has to feel tension. Tension can be because something is pulling it from the outside. Tension can be from the inside, is pushing forward. It doesn't matter. We understand what tension is. So you want to look at yourself and think about that. Your personal growth and your team's growth requires tension. You have to think of it, picture that rubber band. And so you are used to, or we are used to being inside of this circle. Imagine this is the rubber band, and there's no tension there. But there's no growth there either. So in order for us to grow, we have to be conscious, we have to be intentional, we have to be deliberate about stretching ourselves. Now, one thing that I think is key for you to know is that when you're in this, we'll call it a resting state, when you are in this resting state, it's not that you're comfortable there, even though we say it's your comfort zone. It really is that it's familiar. So you may not be happy, you may not like your results, you may not like the circumstances, but it is familiar. And so going outside of that circle of familiarity is uncomfortable. And really that discomfort is because it's unfamiliar. I don't know what's out there. And so hopefully this material is going to help you realize, you know what's out there? Potential, your growth, your opportunities. That's what's out there. You need to move to the next level. And the only way you're going to get from where you are to where you want to go is by growing. And a lot of that growth comes from you. You need to grow yourself. You don't have to do it all alone, but the work is your work to do. So my first observation is on page 198. So let me shoot down to that section. And so 198 the section that I highlighted here is stretching always starts from the inside out. And so in green, I have As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. And so in today's world, we know that we wouldn't call it As a Man Thinketh. We call it something more acceptable, As a Person Thinketh. But the reason I highlighted this is because I've read that book many, many times, and I would urge you and encourage you to do the same thing. These books are not meant to be read once. If you read it once, you really haven't read it. You have to read them at least 3 times before you can say you read them, because they're meant to be studied. But the purpose of that book is to convey that your results are based on your thoughts. You are what you are based on your thinking. And so if you're constantly thinking negative thoughts, woe is me, pity party, I'm a victim, things are not fair, it's just too difficult, or it's not right, or people with money are evil, whatever those thoughts are, if you're watching the news, if you're reading the newspaper and just constantly poisoning your mind, looking for what is wrong in the world, that's what you're going to create. That is what you're going to manifest. That is what you're going to attract. That is how you are. So that's your programming. Now, if you decide to look for opportunities, look for the good in people, look for the good in the world, look for creating opportunities if don't exist, looking for opportunities that you're going to grow yourself, saying to yourself that I am grateful for what I have. I may not be satisfied. I don't think you should be satisfied. I think you should be grateful. And the difference between the two is I appreciate everything that I have, everything that's been provided to me, either by my creator or by nature, whatever you think, whatever you call it. But I'm not satisfied because I'm intended to grow the law of the rubber man. So I should not be satisfied, but I should be appreciative. I should be thankful, and I should have an attitude of gratitude. So that's my first takeaway. My second takeaway is on the next page, 199. Actually, it starts on 199. So he says, find a mentor who can help you see yourself for who you could be, not who you are. And then use that image to inspire you to start stretching. That is critical. So you hear me always talk about hiring a coach, a mentor, not only because I'm always available for hire, but because I know that a lot of my growth has occurred for that. I think one general rule is that you should have the self-motivation and the internal discipline to do whatever is necessary, like exercising, eating healthy, developing yourself, investing in yourself. But when you lack the internal discipline, which happens to all of us, that's the trigger for you to seek external help. And it could be somebody who does it for free, or it could be somebody that you pay for their services. I do think there is generally a difference between the two. My preference would be higher. I think when you pay attention differently. There's an investment, but that's your call. The takeaway again is get a mentor or a coach. Still, as part of that second observation, he says stretching always requires change. Yesterday ended last night. It helped me to focus on the present and work to improve on what I could do today. So then I just wrote down, yesterday has passed and tomorrow will never arrive. All you have is the eternal now. So I think that one of the things if you know me, you've heard me say the mantra that I say literally every day, TNT, today, not tomorrow, and DIN, which is do it now, do it now, do it now, today, not tomorrow. So in terms of the way that I try to battle my procrastination is by reminding myself, today, not tomorrow, today, not tomorrow. I don't have tomorrow. I only have now, the eternal now. So I have to act now, to have the discipline to do something now, read a book now, send an email now, take an action now in the area that moves me toward my goals. But it's all about having that discipline, whether internal or external, through a coach or mentor, of you taking the steps that are necessary for your growth. I think all of you know this, but it always serves as a good reminder that if you are waiting for your boss, if you're waiting for your manager, if you're waiting for your supervisor, If you're waiting for your company to help you grow, that is a bad strategy. It doesn't mean that they won't, but it means that your growth is up to you. Your results are up to you. It is nice. I'd say I have been blessed with just about all of my employers. They have supported my growth. And in return, this is why I do the videos. And in return, this is why I do a lot of the teaching on the side for the company. So I always try to outperform what they've given me. So if they've paid me or covered this amount, I try to go above and beyond that because I am appreciative. But there are many other things that I pay for on my own. My coaches, my mentors, they can be a fair amount of expenses every year. I try to, as a general rule, I try to invest in myself 10% of my income. So whatever it is that I'm getting as an income, that is what I try to allocate for myself in terms of my teaching, coaching, reading material, etc. I also do tithing. I also do investments, but I'm talking about an investment into myself. That is the best investment that I've ever made, and I've had some really good investments. The best investment that I have ever made is an investment in myself, because I can always take these talents anywhere, everywhere, and help as many people as I have access to because of this. So it's just one tip that's worked for me just substantially. Now, obviously, I get it. Some people are not in a financial situation where they can do that, but it's just a seed that I'm planting in your mind where you should start thinking about, is there a dollar amount that I should commit to myself to better myself, to develop myself, to grow myself? So that's my second observation. And then my third observation is on page 202. This is a lengthy one, but I highlighted it in green. Stretching sets you apart from others. Absolutely true. There's Jack and Susie Welch that addressed this issue in their book called Winning. So I read that book, loved the book. The answer is, when a young person entering the corporate world asks, how can I quickly distinguish myself as a winner? And so this is when a young person asks the question, but applies to all of us, people my age, people older, people younger. So they say, first of all, forget some of the most basic habits you learn at school. Once you are in the real world, it doesn't matter if you are 22 or 62, starting your first job or your fifth. The way to get ahead is to over-deliver, which is what I just said in terms of when my employer pays for something, I try to over-deliver. For years, you've been taught the virtues of meeting specific expectations, and you've been trained that it's an A+ performance to fully answer every question the teacher asks. Okay? Those days are over. To get an A+ in business, you have to expand the organization's expectations of you and then exceed them. And you have to fully answer every question the teacher asks, plus a slew of questions he or she didn't even think of. That is so critical. So when your manager, your boss, your director, your organization, the business owner, the entrepreneur asks you for something, you want to answer that question to completion, but you also want to have additional information. You want to go above and beyond, not your expectations, but what you think is their expectations. So you want to set yourself apart. And this is why I say a lot of this is a you and you alone deal. It is up to you. You can lie to yourself. You can give yourself excuses as to why this doesn't work. But at the end of the day, you have to look in the mirror and say, I could have done more. I could have done better. Now, I get it's not easy because I don't always do this to that extent, but I always try to do it, go beyond expectations. So then he says, your goal, in other words, should be to make your boss smarter, your team more effective, and the whole company more competitive because of your energy, creativity, and insights. So again, you're not thinking about you. So even though I said this is a you and you deal, this is you and you in terms of your personal growth, your personal development, but you're taking the things that you're learning and you're growing and you're making your boss smarter. You're making the organization better. You're making your functional group better. You're trying hard to work with the other groups and you're collaborating. So the competitive mindset is not really used internally against my peer. It's used against the external competition. The purpose is to make you, your organization, the people that you're leading, develop them, make them better, bring the bottom up, bring the average up, let the top performers continue to be top performers, but you're trying to use this information to help the company. By helping them, by helping the people around you, you are going to stand out and you are going to go up that career ladder. If your boss asks you for a report on the outlook of one of your company's products over the next year, you can be sure she already has a solid sense of that answer. So they're probably asking you something that kind of already know. They just want to confirm the information. So go beyond being the grunt assigned to confirm her hunch. Do the extra research, legwork, and data crunching to give her something that really expands her thinking. So again, they're asking the question. They probably have an idea of what it is that they're thinking. They want confirmation. So you're going to bring the information that they're asking, but you're also going to go give them new information, maybe insights or a perspective that they weren't thinking about. And this is going to help them look smarter, and it's going to help you as well. You always want to help your boss be as successful as they can. And you also want to make the people that are reporting to you and through you as successful as well. So you're going to grow when you're thinking about the team, everyone around you, not just you. So he says, in other words, give your boss something that shocks and awes her, something new and interesting that she can report to her bosses. In time, those kinds of ideas will move the company forward and you upward. So the key thing here, the last sentence is in time. So there is a universal law called the law of gender, which also is known as the law of gestation. So you think about a seed, you plant a seed. Depending on the seed, that will determine how long it's going to grow. If this were, for example, a human seed, a pregnancy, it can take up to 9 months. If this is a tree, it can take years before it fully grows. If it is a smaller plant, it has its own gestation period. So the point is here, when you do something, you're planting a seed. You may not immediately see that it's growing, but intellectually you understand that seeds grow underground. Intellectually, you know that something is going on beneath the surface. And that's what you're doing here. You are planting seeds that eventually will start to show their way, make their way up into the surface and grow to their full potential. So you're planting these seeds. These seeds are for your growth, the organization's growth. And so everything that you do that's good, or everything that you do comes back to you. That's the law. You sow or you reap what you sow, good or bad. So this is why it's important for you to sow good seeds, positive seeds, do good deeds, because those are all going to come back to you, because the negative things come back to you as well. But you get to control your thoughts. You get to control the choices that you're making. And so you, again, are in charge of your career. It's if it's meant to be, it's up to me. So look at it that way. And so that's my final observation. Now, I would ask you to all go around the room and ask what are your 1 to 3 observations. And as a final reminder that if you are the last person or near the last person in a group who's sharing your observations and you say, well, what I would have said has already been covered by this person or that person, unless they said it using the exact same words you were going to use, in the same tone you were going to use, and in the same inflection that you were going to use, I would encourage you to go ahead and say it yourself anyway, because you have a voice. Your voice matters. You might say it in a way, you may say a word that means something that's inspiring or could trigger a thought, intuition in somebody else that changes their professional or personal trajectory. So this is Rich Arriaga. I hope this has been helpful. Have a great day.